Alright, welcome to Lab 3. This one is all about loops. So you're going to draw a pretty triangle and also graph a bunch of functions on the terminal using that graphing calculator idea that I talked about in lecture. So get the starter code and you will see two files appear, drawtriangle.cpp and graphingcalc.cpp. So drawtriangle is definitely the easiest, so maybe you want to do that one first. So what you do for this one is draw a right-leaning right triangle, okay? There's some nice comments that I gave you to hint at it, but the user's going to type a size, and then it's your job to draw a right-leaning right triangle, okay? So this is what it looks like for a bunch of different sizes. For size 5, size 8, that's how tall it is. Size 2, size 1 is just a single star, right? Size 0 is nothing, gets printed at all, and that is what it's going to look like. Think about what you will need to do in order to make this happen. You're going to have to draw a bunch of spaces until the first star. You're going to have to draw slightly less spaces on the next line so that you have room for 2 stars. So it's initially a bunch of spaces, then a bunch of stars, okay? Until the very last line where you have no spaces and all stars. Okay, that's my hint in words for you, but that's what needs to happen. You need to shift over this star by including a bunch of spaces, okay? Hopefully you'll see what needs to happen there. So here's the code. The user's going to enter a size, and you got that in the size variable. And then if the size is less than 0, you should say invalid size, because that was silly to ask for a size less than 0. And if the user gave you a normal looking size, 0 or greater, then print that right triangle, okay? And think about this hint. That will lead you on the right track, okay? So it's going to be a doubly nested loop, just like we were doing in class to draw boxes and regular triangles. Okay, so that's draw a triangle. The next one, the bulk of the lab most likely, is going to be a graphing calculator. So here are the 3 functions that your graphing calculator program is going to handle. Okay, the user at the beginning gets to enter the number 0, 1, or 2, and that will choose which graph that they want to see. Okay, if the user enters 0, they want you to graph this one, 0.15x squared minus 3. If they enter 1, they want to see 0.15x cubed plus 2. If they enter 2, they want to see 5 times sine of 0.25 times x. So that's the function that you're going to graph in each case. And here's what I want. All right. So you're going to output the axes. Of course, where they align, that's what I did in class. But if you're on the line, like x equals 0, y equals 0, you print some dashes. If you're on the line x equals 0, you print a pipe character. Okay, and so you draw the axes and a plus sign where they meet. Isn't that cute? And then you're also going to graph, okay, just like we were doing in class. So here's the first, if you enter 0, this is exactly what your program should output. If the user enters 1, here's the cubic function that your program should output. And so you're going to graph it just like this. And then finally, here's the sine graph. Isn't that cool looking? So that's exactly what you're going to be doing, okay? And I've done most of the hard work for you. Most of it. I've set up the for loops, okay? Graphing calc. So you got a choice from the user. In the choice variable, it's hold 0, 1, or 2. And so here's what you need to do. You need to fix all the fix me. So I've set up the iteration of the outer loop, the iteration of the inner loop. And so now, once you're inside of the inner loop's body, you have a coordinate to work on, okay? Either you're going to output a space if you're not in any interesting part of the graph, a pipe character if you're on the or the x equals 0 line, a dash character if you're on the x equals 0 line, and by x I mean y again, and then a plus sign if you're at 0, 0, and then a star if you're on the graph. Okay, that's not the proper order to be checking though, so follow these. So the first thing that you do is you want to see if you need to plot the current spot on this graph. Okay, you want to print a star if that is true. All right, so to do that, you got to use round like I was doing. So you solve for y, which I've given you already. So for example, if it was choice 0, you're going to check if rounding this is equal to y, okay? Because a lot of the time this is going to have decimals. We need to round. That gets us integers. And so we're going to like shift it to the closest integer coordinate on the graph, okay? And so that'll make it so that we can actually plot it. So make sure to round the right side, okay? Around the coordinate for a given x, okay? So that's what we want. And then, let's see here. Yeah, so here's what you want to do. You want to check if rounding this equals y, okay? If you round this, does that equal my current y value? That's how it's going to work, okay? That's what I want to do, okay? And maybe I should say this slightly differently then. Make sure to round the right-hand side of the equation. Before checking for equality. That's what I'd like. Okay, so for example, the user enters choice 0, so you want to plot this graph. You want to, for your current xy coordinate, you want to see if rounding this is equal to my current y. Okay? If so, plot it on the graph with a star character. All right? So that's the first thing you check. It's going to be like an if else kind of statement. And then the rest of the options are here. So if x is 0, you want to print a pipe character. If y is 0, you want to print a dash character. If x is 0 and y is 0, you want to print a plus, so the ordering of this is going to matter, because that's where the axes meet. And then if nothing is true, we didn't plot a star because it's not on the graph, it wasn't part of the axes, then you print a blank space so that you're ready and you're in the right spot to maybe print an axis or a star later. Okay? Hopefully that makes enough sense. Please yell at me if it does not. But that is your second part of your lab, okay? And then after each time you print a row, you've got to output a new line like we were doing in class. So essentially the bulk of your work is going to be figuring out how to make this body work, right? And use the example from class of the circle to get you started, okay? So that is your graphing calculator lab. And this entire lab will be due week 7 because, of course, we have a midterm week 6. I don't want to make you have to turn it in there during the same week as a midterm. That would be evil, okay? But definitely study this because loops will be on the test. Okay, so I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. You got 2 files that you're working on, so you're going to turn them both in. And graphing calculator is more points because it's harder, okay? So that is lab 3. Please yell at me if you have any questions, and I will see you later.